Mabuhay, Miss Trans Global Community! Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are across the globe. I am Mela Habijan, your Miss Trans Global 2020, and welcome to the 2021 Miss Trans Global Indoor Interview. Our official Miss Trans Global 2021 delegates answer personal and socially relevant questions. This is a crucial part of our competition because how well they answer the questions shall determine if they deserve a spot in our top 13. But remember, aside from our two judges, you, the public, are our third judge. So cast your votes now for your favorite contestants by logging into our website, that is misstransglobal.com/vote. Without further ado, I proudly bring you our queens answering questions with grace, even under pressure.
Question for you is, how would you respond to those people who believe that transgender women are not women?
Կինը նույնպես կինա, քանի որ մենք նույնպես ունենք հավասար իրավունքներ բոլոր կանանց պես.
Trans women are women because we have the same rights as the other women.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one and why.
Առաջնայինը բնականաբար ես կուզենայի, որ Miss Trans Global մրցույթում դիտարկեին իմ գիտելիքների քանակը, այլ ոչ թե արտաքինի ուղղակի.
I would like to elect Miss Trans Global election me first my brain.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
Իմ ոչ առավելությունը դա այն է, որ ես չգիտեմ անգլերեն լեզուն, բայց առավելությունը այնքանով է, որ ես նպատակասլաց մարդ եմ ու անպայման կսովորեմ.
I don't know English language because I don't have free time, but I am very aim and I will learn English language.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Քանի որ տրանս անձիկ ամբողջ կյանքի ընթացքում հորմոնոթերապիա են անցնում, նրանք պարտավորվում են զբաղվել սպորտով, քանի որ դա առողջության համար շատ կարևոր է։
Because transgender people all life drink different hormones and have a hormonal therapy, it's very important that transgender people including sports.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media, or tolerance, enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
Քանի որ ես ակտիվիստ եմ ու ես ցանկանում եմ շարունակել ակտիվիստ լինել, ու ես անձամբ եմ ցանկանում բարձրաձայնել LGBT համայնքի խնդիրները։
I want to be activist and continue my activist work because I want to raise LGBTIQ community issues.
My question for you is, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
5 տարեկան Մոնիկային ես խորհուրդ կտայի, որպեսզի նա լիներ ավելի անվավ։
I advise little Monica to be fearless.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
Ես խորհուրդ կտայի, որպեսզի ցույց կանայինք նույնպես մասնակցեին այս մրցույթին, քանի որ յուրաքանչյուր ոք ունի հավասար իրավունքներ։
I agree because every people have equal rights.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
Լինել ուժեղ ու չկոտրվել, չհանձնվել, քանի որ մենք բոլորս ունենք շատ նպատակներ, երազանքներ։
To be strong and to be because we have many aims.
Armenia's lack of laws prohibiting discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation and gender identity causes prevailing negative attitudes about LGBT people throughout the Armenian society. If you were to take up a space in politics, what would you do to promote more acceptance and respect and recognition of our community in Armenia? And how would you do it?
Առաջին հերթին, քանի որ մենք չունենք հակախտրականության օրենքը, ես կընդունեի հենց դա։
First of all, we don't have an anti-discrimination law. First, we accept the anti-discrimination law in Armenia.
How would you respond to those persons who believe that transgender women are not women?
Thank you so much for the question. According to my country's mythology, tradition and all, trans women are considered as goddess and all. So I should say that I am a trans woman. That means that I'm a woman. I'm a real woman, because I'm just thinking, I'm talking, I'm doing everything like a woman. It's all about my mind. It's all about my mental condition to convey the world that I am a woman. And I am just equal to a woman, because I am capable of doing everything that a real, the cisgender women do. Thank you so much.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
Thank you so much for the question. I strongly believe that I am beautiful by inside, by the way I talk. If I be the winner of Miss Trans Global 2021, I must be a person who can better communicate, who can better inspire, who can better lead a trans community over the world to a better environment. I have to talk to the public representing my community about trans related issues and all. So if I win Miss Trans Global 2021, that must be the quality that I can speak, that I can lead, that I can inspire the world. Thank you so much.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
Thank you so much for the question. Well, I strongly believe that I don't have any kind of big disadvantages comparing to my other queens. But I think I'm a little bit emotional and over-friendly. And over-emotional and over-friendly nature will be act as a disadvantage for me, because people can easily defeat me by over-friendly nature, emotions and all. By doing such kind of activities, I maybe fell down sometimes, and that, and even I considered the over-friendly nature will help me in building a leadership, building a team and all. So that is the greatest disadvantage as I believe that I possess. Thank you so much.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Thank you for the question. I strongly believe that, as Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon to change the world. It's all about the lack of education, lack of sensitization to the public, that trans women are not allowed to enter in female-only places. I can, as a queen, I can better communicate them how trans people, how trans life happen, how trans people are, just born, its biological features and all. So I can better sensitize the public about trans issues. That as I have earlier said, that trans women are real women. I will teach them how it works out and all. So by that means I can conclude. Thank you so much.
My question for you is, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
Thank you so much for the question. Well, I would better advise the young Shruti about gender sensitization, so that she could better understand the gender diversity, sex and all, about transgender persons, about cisgender person and all. She has to learn such kind of things in the future. And also I would advise her to consider human as how they are existing in the society, irrespective of the gender, race, sex and all. Thank you so much.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media, or tolerance, enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
Thank you for the question. As far as I'm concerned, both are very important for me. In the situation of India, we are somewhere socially recognized in social media platforms outside and all, but we are not enough legally protected in legislatives and all. We are not. Our names are not included. It is only written for male and female only. So we couldn't enter. Sometimes we couldn't enter the space of male and female due to the unconstrained legislative system in our country. So it is better to have a legal protection, governmental protection first, rather being a famous figure in social media and all. Thank you so much.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
Thank you so much for the question. This is the ever best platform I would ever get. It's simply because this is an online platform. When we do pageants offline, it's much more easier, I guess. As I was a winner of Miss Trans Global, Queen of Dwaya 2018 beauty pageant, as I know the procedures, groomings, the tasks and all happening in offline pageant. But comes to this online pageant, this is exclusively an online pageant for trans community. This is going as a step-by-step process throughout 3 or 4 months. It's happening around 3 or 4 months. So it is a platform where we can showcase our talents, our traits and all. So I strongly believe that beauty depends upon one's talent and personality. So this is the platform where I can showcase my personality, my talent, my leadership skills, my inspirations and all. Thank you so much.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
Definitely no. If one cisgender woman join trans pageant, I won't be afraid, because this is not the world of men. This is not the world of women. This is the world of talent. This is the world of traits and all, traits and personality. So I strongly believe that if I have the personality to stand across, if I have the personality to represent, lead and inspire, I will definitely win. Not respect of the contestant, whether they are male, female, transgender and all. Thank you so much.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Thank you so much for the wonderful question. Trans woman yesterday was neglected. Trans woman today is more powerful, more empowered, and trans woman tomorrow will definitely fly with different colors. Thank you so much.
The Transgender Person Bill, basically the protection of rights, has been signed in your country. But the transgender community is clamoring for more. As an Indian trans woman, what do you think is lacking with this law? Or in which aspect did it fail?
Thank you so much for the question. Transgender Protection Bill must be a bill to protect transgender persons. This bill lacks a lot of things. This bill doesn't even define what a transgender person is all about. And even they are given the condition to examine physically to recognize as transgender person. Living in the biggest democratic country with the best constitution, we are being given our right to live in every sense. And this bill denies all our right. So due to this, we are protesting against that bill. Thank you so much.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
Yes, I nuk shoqëri që më nanaji. qui
I would
fait
have
parce,
chosen the second because
et parce que le fait que moi, on fait entendre la voix et en plus, moi, on veut be a voice for the voiceless people. Parce qu'il y a
I
beaucoup de-
want to make myself heard and my voice heard, and I want to be the voice of the voiceless.
Donc, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de monde pas qu'à poser, que ce soit à Maurice, que ce soit dans l'Afrique, parce que moi-même, moi déjà victime de discrimination. Et
Many
donc, on
many
fait-
people cannot be outspoken. They cannot speak for themselves, whether it's in Mauritius or in Africa or elsewhere. And even I have been victims of these challenges of not being able to speak at times.
et mon envie c'est ça comme un exemple pour quand même éradiquer transphobia et discrimination.
And I want to
donc,
use this as an example to be able to eradicate or cultivate down transphobia.
My question for you is, how would you respond to those people who believe that transgender women are not women?
Donc, comme je disais là, donc, nous paraît comme une femme cisgender, même si nous ne pouvons pas concevoir, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de femmes qui ne peuvent pas concevoir aussi.
Trans women are similar to cisgender women, even if we cannot conceive. This does not change anything.
Parce que le fait que ce n'est pas comme un cisgender, pas avoir des enfants, ça va faire être une vraie femme.
Because the fact that some cisgender women cannot conceive, that in no sense makes them less a woman than us.
Et donc, avec beaucoup de fierté, ce que je peux dire, je peux expliquer aussi et définir comment nous pouvons être légal, et que ce soit sexuellement ou physiquement aussi.
And for me, it's with a great pride that I feel myself to be a woman, whether it's physically or mentally, in a legal sense.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
Oui, Najib, en fait, moi, je ne pas trouver aucun désavantage tant qu'il y a une bonne communication entre nous.
I do not consider there are any disadvantages as long as there is good communication between us participants.
Et aussi, nous toujours solidaires parce que nous venons ici, c'est pas pour oui, mon gars couronne, mais par contre, nous venons là pour travailler ensemble parce que nous tous souffrons des discriminations.
There is solidarity between us. It's true that we are here for the competition, but the team building, the sharing of experience between us is something which is very important.
My question for you is, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice? Again, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
Yes, Najib, moi envie d'être mon true self comme un grand.
The advice I've given to myself would be to be yourself and live that as you grow up.
Et moi envie d'être moi-même pour être capable d'aider les autres aussi parce que vous connaissez ça, il y a beaucoup de difficultés qui vont venir.
I want to be myself so that I'll be able to help others. I know that we face many difficulties, so being yourself helps in moving forward.
Thank you.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Najib, donc à ce moment-là, moi, je envie ce que je peux faire, moi, c'est ma campagne inclusion. Donc, tu peux
I would have promoted inclusion campaigns in sports, such as
Oui, cette chose, une campagne et pour sensibiliser du monde concernant transgender, la communauté LGBT, que ce soit gay, lesbienne, etc. Parce que
such as challenges that trans people face, LGBT people face because of their physical abilities and also hormones.
Et donc, à ce moment-là, et explique qui comme quoi, peu importe comment nous était, il est capable de faire le même sport, être pareil comme tout le monde, travailler pareil comme tout le monde.
And show them that despite our differences and the challenges that we face, we should be treated equally, and we can also perform as good as anyone if given the platform to do so.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media, or tolerance, enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
Donc, Najib, ce que je peux dire, c'est par rapport à moi-même, et je prends l'exemple au moi, toujours.
Taking an example of myself.
Donc, moi-même, nous faisons une démarche pour capable faire la recognition, le changement de nom, changement de sexe.
I have undertaken procedures to be able to get my name changed and to be able to have my sex change with the local authorities in Mauritius.
Et donc, nous connaissons comme quoi ça prend un extra long temps pour arriver.
I am aware of the challenges that these will take in terms of time and legally.
Et vous connaissez comme quoi il n'est pas suffisant qui comment dire nous le social media, mais par contre nous devons travailler plus pour nous capables. En fait, nous devons les deux en même temps. C'est pas
it is not sufficient. It is not sufficient for us to be only on social media. Rights are important as well, and it's good to keep a balance between both. It is equally important to be on social media and also to engage in rights.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
Bon, en fait, c'est que nous dire, au contraire, vous pourrez remercier Miss Trans Global.
I would like to thank Miss Trans Global.
Parce qu'il y a une opportunité à tout le monde participer, que ce soit noir, blanc ou même gros, ou soit mince, peu importe.
For the opportunity they have given to a diverse range of trans people to participate, whether they are black or white or any other differences that they have.
Même au niveau que ce soit les gros, les pieds, les jeunes, peu importe quel âge, ils peuvent participer.
Even when it comes to age difference, you've allowed trans people to feel included in the competition.
Et donc, nous pouvons travailler et pour capable d'élaborer une arène pour qui capable et cause beaucoup de problèmes et non une arène qui peut mettre un domaine queen.
And Miss Trans Global is empowering participants to be able to speak on behalf of trans people, not just to be there for the physical aspect and just being a representation in a physical way for all trans people around.
Because we need a queen who works a lot, not a doormat queen.
Because we need a queen who works a lot and not a doormat queen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
Oui, Najib, en fait, moi personnellement, je suis d'accord que vous êtes capable de joindre, pareil comme on fait à la joindre Miss Universe, par exemple.
I am agreeable for them to join the competition in a similar way that trans people are allowed to join Miss Universe's competition.
Parce que moi, je trouve la diversité.
Because it showcases a diversity of women who are participating.
Oui, et donc, pour moi, personnellement, c'est la diversité qui fait nous réunir.
The diversity in all its senses enables us to come together.
Qui fait nous pas donner la chance aussi, ben femmes cisgender, compete ensemble. Et donc, ça va vraiment faire. Et donc, au contraire, c'est un plus pour nous aussi, pour montrer le monde qui nous touche, nous, dans la diversité.
Allowing cisgender women to join is a plus for us to show the world that we are united in diversity. And this does not make me afraid at all, on the contrary.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Donc, et pour prendre l'exemple pour moi, contrairement à que j'étais avant, mais aujourd'hui, et je pense pour l'avenir aussi. Donc, malgré qu'avant parti accepté dans ma famille.
Trans women yesterday, today and tomorrow for me in the past, despite not being accepted by my family.
Et donc, que ce soit au niveau du travail aussi, mais petit à petit, et me réussir comme si, et montrer ceux qui, peu importe qui nous était,
all the challenges faced at work, step by step, I've been able to show to them who I really am and get the acceptance.
Et donc, pour moi, et si demain il y a une femme transgenre comme moi qui passe par la même étape, moi, beaucoup encourager à aller l'avant avec moi-même faire.
And living these experiences for me, moving forward. If tomorrow I meet my peers who wish to be able to showcase themselves, I'd be there to hold their hand and encourage them to go forward, to be who they are.
Especially when it comes to gender recognition laws and SOGI bills, which is like protection laws that protect LGBT people. Do you have that in your country? And is it safe for people to come and visit your country?
Ok, Najib, donc moi j'encourage beaucoup de personnes à venir Maurice parce que Maurice c'est un pays de diversité et tolérant.
I would encourage trans people and other people to come to Mauritius because Mauritius is a diverse and tolerant country.
Il n'y a aucun problème concernant une personne de transgenre ou la communauté LGBT visite Maurice, ça il n'y a aucun problème.
Despite challenges, there is no such issues for trans people or LGBTQ people to come to Mauritius.
Mais le problème, c'est que nous payons en notre protestant LGBT et trans aussi, et pas de changement de nom, changement de sexe, pas permis ici.
However, our laws pose some challenges. Name change, while being authorized, sex change is still a challenge.
Et donc, nous avons un code des 50 qui criminalise l'homosexualité.
And Section 250 of the Criminal Code criminalizes homosexuality, despite having equality laws such as the Equal Opportunities Act.
Et au niveau du travail aussi, c'est pareil. Donc, il y a un grand travail à faire au niveau.
And in terms of work and labor, we do have discrimination law based on sexual orientation, but for gender identity, there is still a legal void.
Et donc, heureusement que par l'Union européenne, au moins, nous aussi enlève ban pour donation du sang. Donc, en 2014.
And with the support of the Young Queer Alliance, we've been able to ensure that LGBT people can now donate blood, which is a step forward.
How would you respond to those people who believe that transgender women are not women?
So what I would like to tell everybody out there is, firstly, we are who we say we are. We are who we truly believe we are. Being a woman isn't just the concept of what you are physically born with, but it's who you are and the space that you inhabit in this world. I personally believe that people who do not understand who we are as women in society, it is our jobs as transgender individuals to explain to them that we are just like any other woman that we see. So once again, it is ignorance, but we as transgender individuals can counter that ignorance with kindness. Remember, kindness kills everything.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
So I would definitely love to be crowned Miss Trans Global through the way I speak, because beauty is only skin deep, but my intelligence is everything. As a role model for transgender individuals, you need to be able to express yourself and express to others what you truly believe and to make a change with what you think.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
So, I personally believe my disadvantage is the fact that I am much bigger than most of the other contestants. I'm more of a curvier individual, and I'm not what you would per se a pageant girl. But true, to be honest, I'm going to use that to show other transgender females that no matter your size and how big or small you are, you can be that beauty queen that you say you are. You can win, and you can be Miss Trans Global Ghana, at least for your country, but you can also hold that title as Miss Trans Global World.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
So I do agree with the concept of transgender individuals being able to participate in the Olympics. The way I will counter this and explain myself is that transgender individuals do not just go through their journey with, well, let's say a physical aspect, but they go through a medical journey too. So the actual physical form of the individual changes bone structure, the way that they think, the way that they act, and their strength. Like me, a transgender individual, I lose my strength as I take my hormones. And that is a concept to show that these people are just like any other woman.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media, or tolerance, enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
As an individual who is part of the community, being a voice that can create change is the main thing for me. At the end of the day, we can be pretty and people can celebrate us for our beauty, but it's actually the laws and legislations that are actually going to allow us to be the women that we deserve to be and live in society freely. That is the reason why my whole campaign for Miss Trans Global is for acceptance and protection. Acceptance for all and protection for the individuals that are in countries that protection is not visible for.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
If I won Miss Trans Global and someone came to me and asked me what is different about the pageant, I would show them myself. Already, I'm completely different from all the other trans pageants that are out there. The way I stand, the way I move, the way I walk is completely different to all the other aspects that other pageants are looking for. Miss Trans Global are different in the way they move, the way they bring people towards them, and the way that they express themselves within our community.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
I would definitely not be threatened by any cisgender individual joining a transgender pageant. And the reason for that is because I myself see myself to be just like a cisgender woman. Just because I and my journey was a bit different to theirs does not mean I'm any different from them.
My question for you is, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice? Again, If you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
If 5-year-old me was standing right beside me right now, I would look to her and be like, you are not different, you are not weird, and you are nothing apart from brilliant. Stay confident, stay strong, and put your head up high, because one day you're going to be a queen.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Trans women yesterday, trans women today, and trans women tomorrow will forever and will always be part of society. We were part of society then, before colonialism. We were part of society after colonialism, and will be part of society in the near future. No one can get rid of us.
Miss Trans Global Ghana, this is my question for you. Right now in Ghana, the Parliament House is pushing for a law that would imprison LGBTQI persons, also imprison our allies, our parents and brothers who support us. What is your opinion about this law, and what do you think you could do to change the minds of those in the Parliament House?
These laws that are trying to be passed within Ghana at these times are one of the worst things that could ever happen to Ghana as a community, as a society, and as a country. To be able to counter all of these laws, I have myself gone out and been rallying at the High Commission in the United Kingdom. I have sent letters to the Ghanaian government, but also I would remind everybody that lives in there, although it is a scary place to be. Everybody who lives outside of the country who is Ghanaian, it is our duty to make sure that we are visible and understand that trans people, LGBT people, people of the diaspora are human people. We are human beings and we deserve our rights too.
As a London-based Ghanaian woman, do you think you can deliver the groundwork needed by our trans sisters in Ghana, aside from the social media platform? And how?
Being a Ghanaian woman based in London, I have already started the groundwork to help my fellow sisters in Ghana. We are in a day and age where internet and social media is at its highest. With a click of a finger, we can affect change in multiple different areas. I also hope to go and visit the country very, very soon and be able to go have a conversation with our leader, Akufo-Addo, and to show him and make him understand that being transgender isn't a threat to society, but is a plus to our community.
My question for you is, how would you respond to those people who believe that transgender women are not women?
Okay, firstly, I would say our body has been built up of not just the physical, but also what we have in our souls. Now, being a woman doesn't come from just my expression, but from what I have in my soul, and that is what makes me a real woman. That's my answer for the question. Thank you very much.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
My looks wouldn't make me a woman, or my looks may not qualify me to be a worthy queen, but what I have in me and also what I bring out. And remember, I'm pouring out my heart here, and willingly I would want to be a worthy queen that can effect change or can enforce change to the transgender community.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
Thank you very much for that question. I think, to me, the fact that I am a Nigerian person from one of the most transphobic countries in the world, I am also living my truth as a trans woman. I am at a very big risk, which reduces my visibility. But then with Miss Trans Global, I should be given the chance to, or I should have the courage of being able to stand tall and be who I am and stand up for something, the transgender community. Thank you very much.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
This would be a challenge to transgender women who are not, who haven't started transitioning, but for trans women who have started transitioning. In my own opinion, I feel there should be a case where there should be a test set up for her and a cisgender woman, because I'm talking out of experience. I was part of the girls' basketball team, but I was kicked out because I was I'm a trans woman. So I feel there should be a test set for both women to test that woman's ability as the woman and the cisgender woman's ability. Trust me, there wouldn't be a difference. That's my own opinion. That's my opinion because I'm speaking out of experience. Thank you very much.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media or tolerance enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
So I have chosen a path to which I am taking now. Being a trans woman who is living her life fully as a woman and as an activist for the transgender community, for the LGBTIQ community as a whole. So I'm living openly and on the media as a transgender woman and an activist as well. Very much.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Miss Trans Global is the first of its kind, I would say. So I wouldn't be able to differentiate Miss Trans Global pageant from any other transgender women inclusive pageant because it's the first of its kind, having an all trans women pageant from the whole world. So it's very, very different to have a competition. Thank you very much.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I wouldn't feel threatened because I have also been in a situation like that, my first pageant ever, contesting for Miss Delta State University as a trans woman with about 12 other cisgender women. So I wouldn't feel threatened if a trans woman should, a cisgender woman should join an all trans women pageant. She's welcome, we all are women.
My question for you is, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
Thank you very much for the question. I like the question because it's a way of still advising any trans kid out there looking at me or watching me. I'll say to myself, Adana, be who you are, never give up, always think twice and learn to love yourself even more. Thank you very much.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I would use myself as an example for this saying. Yesterday, in my past, as a trans woman, even though I wasn't living as one, but I always knew I was one, which inspired me to go for an all-female pageant, like I said before, do much of some female activities and all that. I was discriminated, I was humiliated, I was beaten, I didn't know my rights and all that. Today I know my rights and I am a trans woman and I have a future. As a trans woman, I see my future from here. I can predict, or I can think of my 10 years and my future as a trans woman also. So I was a trans woman yesterday, I am a trans woman today, and tomorrow I'm still a trans woman. Thank you very much.
Back in our time, in the late 90s and early 2000, the glamour part of our advocacy is almost next to none. Most of the time, the job to be done is based more on the groundwork, meaning in the streets, in schools, in parks, and in local communities. My question is, would you give up the glamour part in social media in exchange for the groundwork that is still needed to be done at the bottom? Why and why not?
Okay, so thank you very much for the question. I would want to use the power of media advocacy and take advantage of the current method of fighting, which is the social media. And that's part of the glamour, the time for it and the strength for it to be put into or channeled into more of advocacy. And then back on the streets, I would want to continue my sensitization to people on transgender-based or related issues. Thank you very much.
My question for you is, how would you respond to those people who believe that transgender women are not women?
Well, the only thing I can actually say to them is to look at me, see how I look, see how I behave, and if you believe that trans women are not women, when you look at me, that means you have a very wrong mentality, because even though my people still say that I'm not a woman, so I don't care that much. If I was to care in a way, I'll not be here. So yeah, this is the answer, that I don't care that much. I just need to be myself.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
I'm gonna choose the first one about beauty, because beauty, you don't have to say too much. Beauty, you have it. You are born with it. So for me, I think beauty, that would be the answer, because you have it and you just show it. The other side, you have to be more to educate yourself, information. That means a lot more work. So if you have the beauty, you just have the beauty.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
Well, some other guys, because I don't know them very well, personally, but what I can see physically, they have surgeries, which I don't have. But what I have is maybe a great personality, and that is something in plus than them. So I'm gonna use my personality to be better in competition.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Well, I believe that everyone should have the right to participate in any contest, and I know I've read these things about the fact that they believe that transgender women should not participate in this kind of competition, but I also received many messages on my TikTok about the women who actually look like men, even though they are born women. So this thing, it's not validated for me, because as you can see, our women very masculine as biological women, and it should not be an issue for them, because anyone is made from masculine and feminine. So what are we talking about here? It's like you say, okay, she's not allowed. Why? Because she's a bit more masculine. That is not something to say no. Or because a trans woman is more tall. We also see normal women tall or masculine or hairy or all these things. So it's irrelevant what they say. So I don't agree with them. I believe that everyone have the chance to participate at this kind of contest. If he's stronger a bit, that is her luck. So, yeah.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media, or tolerance, enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
Prefer to be a voice because I have this opportunity now to use this platform, TikTok, and people really appreciate the fact that I changed their mentality about transgender people through my videos, and I'm very happy to be a voice for transgender people. I'm going to choose this.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
If I'm gonna win Miss Trans Global, I wanna make them a present, and I'm gonna design for them some clothes. I'm still working. I'm very excited, so I'm gonna offer them, look, I'm gonna design clothes for themselves to be themselves, basically. Tell me that you are trans without telling me that you are trans. This is my idea, so hopefully after I'm gonna win the Miss Trans Global, I'm gonna show them what I have for them. Surprise!
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
I believe that it should be like, let's say, Miss Trans Global only transgender and Miss Universe only for the cisgender women. But I wouldn't mind if they can be in the same competition, all of us, because after all, we are all women, and what we have between our legs should not matter. If we say it doesn't matter what we have between our legs, we should not care about other cisgender women what they have. So we should all be together and support each other no matter what, because this is the only way.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Even though I say we are the first generation of transgender because we are more mediatized, in the sense like people see us more, but transgender women was yesterday, before us was other people. Transgender today is us, and transgender tomorrow it will be the next generation of transgender girls, and we should be an example for them and to be to inspire each other and be better as a whole.
My question for you is, If you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
When I had 5 years old, I can definitely say that I was purely Ariella. I was playing with dolls, I was very feminine, and I can say to her this: don't worry, you will still become a beautiful woman, even though all your childhood was, in a way not good. But just trust in yourself and give you everything good.
Miss Trans Global Romania, this is my question for you. What are the 3 most important qualities a beauty queen should possess? And do you believe you possess these qualities to be crowned Miss Trans Global 2021?
Yeah, I believe the qualities are beauty, someone who is very good at fashion, and someone who is very implicated to do a change in transgender community.
How would you respond to those persons who believe that transgender women are not women?
How would I prove to those people who says trans women are not women? Well, for me, I would show them that we think, we act, we lived, and we function as a woman. And it's the most wonderful thing that we have been doing, because we have been taking space as a woman. And even here in the UK, we are accepted as a woman. We are even allowed to use the female toilet, which is not commonly accepted in some part of the world. But here in the UK, we have been embraced and we have been included in the society. Thank you.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
I'd like to start by saying the standard of beauty is not definite, but we define it. If ever I'd be chosen to be the Miss Trans Global 2021, I'd be grateful and honored that they've chosen me because of how outspoken and eloquent I am. This would prove that I have been advocating for my advocacy, which is a trans representation in the healthcare industry. Thank you.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition? And how will you turn it into an advantage?
One thing that I believe that is a disadvantage in this competition for me is I overthink a lot. I have this tendency to think that I need to perfect everything. But at the same time, I take it as an advantage because it makes me step up and it makes me want to do more and to be excellent and to show to the organization and to people that I have prepared and I am willing and I am ready to take on this responsibility as the Miss Trans Global 2021.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
I would still stand by my word that trans women are women. Once we submit ourselves to transitioning, we genuinely feel that we are a woman. And once we started taking hormones, our body also undergo the same process as a woman. And so to those people who think that trans women are stronger than this biological or physiological woman, you're wrong, because we undergo medical exams before you take part on the Olympics or in the sports that you're joining. And I think it's about understanding and accepting that we exist and we can do the same thing that a biological man or physiological man and woman can do. Thank you.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media or tolerance enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
I am very fortunate enough that I am in the country where I am accepted, trans women are accepted, and we have law here. And I want to encourage the government, especially in the Philippines and all other countries who doesn't have law to protect the trans women or trans community, to make one, because it is much more important to be protected. And I believe that we can celebrate after we get that law. That's important. It is for our own protection, and it would also help us to be more visible and to celebrate. Thank you.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
How would I differentiate Miss Trans Global to a different international trans pageant? I believe that they promote independence and they push us to be more creative with our output. I do respect and understand the other organization that do create and invite their candidates to a certain country to compete. But Trans Global, Miss Trans Global promotes acceptance, and it gives more trans women a chance to compete because it is done digitally. And I am very grateful that I am part of this pageant, and I couldn't be much more proud to be here. Thank you.
If you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
One thing that I would say to my 5-year-old self would be strong. You take and you face challenges, failure, but I know you can do it as I've done it. And never give up on life, never give up on trying, because at the end of the day, you would be able to achieve all the things that you dream. Yes, you may not understand this fully right now, but you would be able to realize all these things once you get into where I am right now. And yeah, just be grateful and just be happy, because that's what would bring you to your goal. Thank you.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
Although there are people who are against of trans women joining bigger cisgender pageants, I would not be threatened, to be honest, if a cisgender woman join a trans pageant where I am also participating. It would actually be interesting, because we are letting her experience what we are experiencing. And although this is a pageant, there's always a different feeling and vibe of joining a pageant where all the contestants are transgender women. So after the pageant, she could be a voice for us, much more than an ally, because she experienced what we experience.
Under the Gender Recognition Act of 2004 in UK, it is a criminal offense to tell people about a person's previous gender without permission from the individual, except when made to a health professional for medical purposes. Many have raised concerns about health staff not using trans people's preferred names and pronouns in written and verbal communication. As a healthcare worker and transgender, what do you think is needed in the workplace in order for these cases to not happen again and again?
As a nurse, as a healthcare, and as a transgender woman, I do believe that being sensitive is really important. And yes, there are incidents that we miscommunicate or we misaddress a transgender person in some hospitals. That is why we have created a trust-wide LGBT group in the NHS to promote and to give seminars to the member of staffs in the healthcare to address carefully a transgender person. Yes, it may not be perfect. It is still ongoing and we still have a bigger space to take, but we are working on it. And that is important thing. We are working on it for its improvement. Thank you.
Gender dysphoria is no longer recognized as a mental health condition and is now described as a sexual health condition by the World Health Organization. In early 2000, the guidelines of National Health Service in UK states that medical referrals for trans patients should be done directly to gender identity clinics so that trans patients get the necessary healthcare and assessment that are needed. Despite these guidelines, some trans patients or people with gender identity issues were wrongfully sent to mental health services, even by their own general practitioners. If you become a part of the Miss Trans Global team, how would you advocate for the full implementation of this protocol, aside from bringing it up in the social media?
This is very sad and controversial thing that I've heard regarding sending patients instead of a transgender clinic to a mental health clinic. If I become part of the Miss Trans Global organization, I would contact and do my best to contact unions and especially our MPs to take part and to put pressure on those referrals and letting them know that this is not about mental health issues. It's more of like the physical, and we need them to understand it. Thank you.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
Seria porque eu sou uma Miss inteligente, que falo bem perante a sociedade e que sou guerreira e batalhadora pelos meus sonhos.
It's because I'm smart and not only beautiful. I want to show everything for the society and work with society to show my best, not my image.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition? And how will you turn it into an advantage?
A minha única desvantagem é que eu não falo inglês. Isso complica um pouco perante as outras concorrentes. Mas o que faz me fazer querer concorrer a si mesmo e querer fazer com que eu possa realizar este grande sonho é que eu sou muito determinada, sempre corro atrás de tudo que quero e que eu sou igual a todas as outras e como elas podem, eu posso também.
The negative point is because I don't speak English, and the good point and the good reason is because I'm follow my dreams, and I try do my best because I'm not less to nobody. We are always equal.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Bom, primeiramente temos que quebrar essa tabu em que nós somos mais ou menos do que qualquer outra pessoa, certo? Eu acho que sim, temos um pouco mais de força do que uma mulher cis, mas nada mais, nada menos do que a inteligência. Todas nós temos que ser inteligentes e capazes. Isso faz com que nós podemos entrelaçar em todas as categorias. Todas as mulheres precisam ser vistas, inclusive nós, mulheres trans. Então eu acho que deveria sim ser liberal para todos os tipos de gênero a poder participar de qualquer Olimpíada.
She say, the trans women can participate in the Olympiads because we are transgenders. We are a little bit more stronger than cisgenders, but everyone need to have opportunity to try your best, because if you training, you can get more strong. So this is not the negative point to transgender cannot participate the Olympiads.
My question for you is, how would you respond to those people who believe that transgender women are not women?
Costumam-se dizer que nós mulheres trans somos loucas e não somos capazes, né? Aí, quando me ocorre uma pergunta dessa, eu peço para a pessoa estude um pouco mais, saiba um pouco mais sobre o nosso meio antes de vir falar que nós não somos mulheres. Porque sim, somos mulheres como qualquer outra mulher que existe no mundo. Somos determinadas, capazes de correr atrás de qualquer coisa e qualquer sonho.
All my life I listen to people say the transgender is not women, but we need to understand and we need to teach everybody to learn the gender is not in our body, and yes, in our mind. So if we burn boy and have the mentality women, immediately we are women's. Not body, our body don't say anything about our genders.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media or tolerance enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
Olha, eu acredito que eu preferia ser protegida, sabe? Porque quem disse que o nome é masculino, é feminino? Quem disse que Mateus é um nome masculino? Quem disse que é um nome feminino? Então eu acredito que essa questão de que mudar o nome não necessita muito, não nos atrapalhe muito na nossa vida. Sim, é óbvio que é ótimo sermos chamadas pelos nossos nomes femininos, que nós nos colocamos. Mas acredito que ser protegida é algo melhor do que ser famosa e conhecida mundialmente.
I think it's better have protection for the government because this can save our lives. Our names, like Mateus or whatever, it's only name in the paper. This is say anything about our personality. I prefer 100% to be saved and live my life for help with the government or would be famous. Famous, everyone can do it.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
Eu quero me aprendizar mais, estudar mais um pouco, para poder levar o nome do concurso para todo o nosso universo. Creio que, com inteligência, capacidade e determinação, são os focos para que possamos realizar um grande sonho e levar o nome de um concurso tão grandioso para o nosso país, para o nosso mundo inteiro.
The first thing I want to meet all the Miss, the different contests, and work together, make a big group to support all the trans women in society. I want to work to be great to universe and our community. I want to have friends in the misses to work together and show all misses it's only one for universe.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
Acredito que sim, porque somos plurais. Temos que dar e receber oportunidades. Como o Miss Universo agora está abrindo portas para nós, mulheres trans, eu creio que o nosso concurso poderia sim ter mulheres cis. Às vezes elas até se identificam mais conosco, né?
Yes, of course. I think it's open for have the cisgender, because now in the Miss Universe start to have a transgender in the pavement. If we want to participate the cisgender and they want to participate in our transgender beauty competition, it's open for everyone, because all us, we are women. It doesn't matter if you are transgender or cisgender. We are equal.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
No passado, fomos muito discriminadas, assassinadas, mortas por sermos o que somos. Hoje, temos uma visibilidade melhor, mas no futuro, espero que possamos entrelaçar como pessoas normais.
The past, the yesterday, murder, sad, and live in the shadow. Today we have more visibility and possibility. In the future, dreams.
My question for you is, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice? Again, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
O conselho que toda pessoa daria, né? Que é estudar muito, estude muito para poder ser alguém na vida, porque o mundo em qual vivemos, principalmente o país em qual vivemos, é o que mais mata a LGBTQIA+ no mundo, né? Então eu diria para que ela estudasse muito e tivesse muitas forças para vencer.
Yeah, she say studying a lot, because the only way to have good life and to be strong if you are smart. If you study, you can be a good person and a strong person to fighting for our community, the LGBTQ+, and you can talk more. You have more opportunity to fight for our community.
If you were a cisgender woman, how would you convince the whole world about transgender women in a cisgender pageantry?
Diria que nós deveríamos abrir as portas para todos os seres humanos de nossa terra. É um sonho, a gente não tem que envolver sexualidade. E diria para o mundo que se atualizassem mais e que ela seria uma mulher como qualquer uma outra.
She said, I'll try introduce everyone, understand, open your eyes like you open your doors in your home. You need understand and listen the heart and understand the woman is not in the body and yes inside.
How would you respond to those persons who believe that transgender women are not women?
Okay, first of all, I just want to be very straight about here. Trans women are real women. We need to stop that ideology that because trans women cannot give birth, we're not woman enough. Being woman, it's based on the strain. It's based about what do you feel and what you have in your mind and what can you deliver to society. Trans women are real women. We have been real women and we will be real women forever. So it's all about loving each other the best way we are.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one and why.
Okay, I think here it's Miss Trans Global is based about finding that person who's gonna stand up for what's right on the trans community. I would like to be recognized based on my work, based on the spirit and my values that I do have to bring to support and help the community. I would like people to see me as a person who has not just a brain, but has ideas, has thoughts, has feelings and passion to support and rescue those who need help the most.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition? And how will you turn it into an advantage?
Honestly, here, I think my biggest disadvantage is that I'm a very honest, direct, and unapologetic person that can get me in trouble just speaking off my mind. But I can use that to be able to be that spokesperson that Miss Trans Global needs to go out there and speak for what's right, for what has been done wrongly for the trans community. So that part is the one I can use instead of being a weakness, have been a strength to be successful in this competition.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Okay, first of all, here it's something very important. Every time that somebody is going to join any activity, especially like this, there are medical test that has to be done in order for the person to actually be good for this. I think here the base is about education. We need to educate people how these individuals are being selected to compete in these categories. Now, we need to be more mindful about how our words will impact negative to these individuals who are just trying to succeed in life, who are trying to make something good out of society.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media or tolerance enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
I do believe the visibility for trans individuals not should be based on how pretty they are of the label of impact they have as an influencer. I do believe that what we need as society is to be recognized as human being and have the same legal protections as anybody else, as any other human being in this earth. We just need to have that protection, and that's the first thing we need in order for us to move on and then be protected and have the same opportunity as anybody else, regardless of the gender identity or sex orientation they have to identify with.
My question for you is, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
the first and I guess unique advice that I would give to my little me would be to love, hug, and treasure every single instance that I'd had with my parents. Unfortunately, I lost my dad and I didn't have a chance to say goodbye. I'm still being away from my mom and I haven't had the chance to give a hug. I just want to have a good memory and remember the love that the family can bring to you, because that's what makes you successful in life, when you get to know what love is, especially coming from your family.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
Before anything else, I guess we need to learn about respect, and each and every trans pageant has their own vision and mission about how to support the trans community. The difference that I would do is stay truthful to what Miss Trans Global vision and mission has in order to help and support the cause that they are working for. That's how I'm gonna be differentiating the other pageants around. It is be truthful and be honoring that mission and vision that the organization has to make those changes that need to be created to change life in a positive way for trans individuals.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
Definitely not. I think it's all about womanhood, that sisterhood. It's all about being a woman and then just enjoying the moment and the cause while we're enjoying that competition or pageant. It is all about coming together and everybody put their very own on the competition the very best way possible to achieve whatever dream or objective each individual has. So pretty much I will be so much more of that cause, because this is what we're trying to achieve. It is create a sisterhood, a womanhood, regardless of the gender identity.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
I will describe this yesterday, today, and tomorrow as a circle of surviving. Trans women have been surviving and still surviving, and we will still try to survive at any period of time. Here, what is important is the tools and the knowledge and empowerment that we have getting from our past leaders that have helped us to get to where we are today. The key here is be able to continue as be strong and resilient and keep fighting for what's right and rightfully has belonged to us.
How would you persuade a trans ally nation to take a closer look at cases of trans women applying as asylum seekers?
Okay, I think the first thing that I will do here is just remind this nation about their main responsibility about protecting their citizens, regardless, again, of their gender identity or sex orientation. The priority thing is remind them what is their obligation as a society, as a system, as a government to protect each individual, and to get to know why these individuals are not being well protected or doesn't have earned the rights to be able to be in a safe environment, on a safe place.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
La mujer transgénero, desde sus principios, el que es el pasado, la mujer actual y la mujer del futuro, siempre tiene esa fortaleza y esa resiliencia. Ahora somos inteligentes, somos mujeres preparadas, sin temor al éxito y con una visión de ganas de triunfo, que es lo que nos hace llegar a empoderarnos en cualquier parte del mundo.
Okay, basically what she's saying is that the difference that between the trans woman that it's from the past to the now and to the future is that now it has most strong in the way that they have become, that right now they are more powerful in actual life, that and this is happening through the time that it has been passing, and in her experience is that she feels that right now she has more power in the trans in the community as well.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
no me sentiría amenazada si alguien de una mujer cisgénero participara, porque creo que el objetivo de este tipo de concursos es el empoderamiento de la mujer, no solo si eres cisgénero o transgénero, sino el empoderamiento de una mujer en general a nivel mundial.
Okay, she will not feel any threatened at all, because at the end, what the trans it's fighting for, it's the rights of the woman in general. So she will not be afraid or threatened by a person like me, because we're all communities, and the rights is just for women trans, but at the end they want to have the same rights as me.
How would you respond to those persons who believe that transgender women are not women?
Cuando tú estás segura de quién eres y lo que eres en este mundo, no nos vemos en la necesidad de explicarle o tratar de hacer entender al resto de la sociedad quién eres tú. Lo importante es que una, como mujer transgénero, se sienta plena y segura de la mujer que es actualmente, no de lo que las otras personas creen que realmente eres tú.
Okay, she's basically saying that at the end of her history is that she's not trying to convince anyone who is against the transgender woman, because if you as a human being knows what you're worth it and you know what it's that you want it to be, I think it at the end is the only thing that it matters, that what you think about yourself and that you want it to be that trans woman, not convincing the rest of the world, because then you're not gonna convince anyone if they don't want to be convinced.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media, or tolerance, enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
El mundo necesita tener personas con decisión. Necesita tener mujeres que sean fuertes, que sean mujeres con una actitud empoderada, que salgan a las calles, que salgan al mundo, no solo a pelear y a pedir por sus derechos personales, sino tenemos que salir a ese mundo a luchar y a pedir y exigir los derechos que por nacimiento tenemos todos como individuos. De nada sirve una fotografía bonita en las redes sociales. De nada sirve un video donde una salga muy bella con una corona, una banda. Necesitamos salir a pelear a las calles con la misma seguridad que vamos a otorgarle al resto de las generaciones y de las mujeres transgénero en el mundo por su tranquilidad y una vida digna en derechos y sus derechos sociales como cualquier otro individuo.
Okay, so from the beginning is that she is more agree to having to fight for the right, because it's not about having a nice picture or like showing the crown on social media. It's more about to fight for the rights for the trans people, that rights that they must have from the beginning until they have it become a law for them. So she's more focused on fighting for that than to rather have a nice picture on her social media.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Es importante que nosotros también tengamos esa mentalidad abierta para poder recibir comentarios negativos y positivos. En cualquier competencia siempre va a haber normas. Si ellas cumplen los requisitos físicos e intelectuales, obvio van a tener la oportunidad de participar y nosotros tenemos que respetar.
If they complete with the rules that the Olympics put and that now it's become that it's approved, then the girls, they have the trans women, they have all the rights to be at the Olympics because it was already approved.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
No creo que no tenga lo mismo que mis compañeras. Tengo 2 piernas, tengo 2 brazos, tengo un sueño igual que ellas y tengo la meta igual que ellas, que es llegar a ganar esa corona. Lo importante para poder lograr tus sueños es tu actitud, la perseverancia. Creo que eso es lo único que podríamos tener de diferente entre ellas y yo. La actitud y la perseverancia y la disciplina.
As the other contestants, she has the same dreams, she has 2 hands, she has 2 feet, and she has the same perseverance that want to accomplish in the contest. So it's the same dreams, and those same dreams are that one of them is going to win, but at the end, all of the contestants are focused on the same objective.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
En mi persona, la belleza realmente que puedo poseer está en mi interior. Y estoy segura que con cada uno de los mensajes que he podido compartir a lo largo de este concurso, puede darse cuenta no solo los jueces, sino cada una de las personas que pueden ver y pueden compartir con nosotros de la gran belleza que se encuentra en mi interior y en mi ser. Así que mis palabras pueden dar más aún de conocer de la gran belleza que poseo como mujer mexicana y como mujer transgénero, que más allá de lo que ustedes puedan ver en una simple imagen. Gracias.
Okay, so she will choose to go with what the message that she wants to give rather than she be pick up for her beauty. She wants to share a message to all of the people from her inside, not just because of how she looks. And all the message she wants to share, it's from that you notice what she has from the inside.
If you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
Yo, Lorena actual, le diría a Lorena de 5 años que salga debajo de esa cama donde estuvo escondida por mucho tiempo, con miedo, con temor, con ese pánico que sentía al saber que era diferente y el temor del miedo de ser rechazada. Le diría que no tuviera miedo porque se va a convertir en una mujer hermosa, en una mujer empoderada, en una mujer que va a ser escuchada y que es muy inteligente, que se sienta segura, que se sienta confiada y que sepa que Dios está con ella.
Okay, so she will tell her 5-year-old Lorena that don't be afraid, that all that bad
que
moments
debajo de esa cama.
Under the bed that she was, that go out and try all the good things and that be a strong woman, and that she will become an empowered woman and a beautiful woman. That's what she will tell her 5-year-old Lorena.
Mexico is predominantly religious or relatively a Catholic country. As a trans woman, being raised as a Catholic schoolgirl who went to church almost every day and follow the basic doctrines of a religion with a childlike faith, how would you reconcile your faith with the supposedly religion of love and compassion, which became the instrument of divisiveness and discrimination, especially against a God-fearing trans woman like you?
Soy una mujer completamente de fe. Soy una mujer creyente de Dios. Soy una mujer con valores. Crecí en un país muy religioso y en una familia completamente creyente de Dios, donde se me inculcó que uno de los principales mandamientos de Dios es el amor a tu prójimo, respetar a tu prójimo como a ti mismo. Es mi mayor defensa que tengo cuando alguien me ataca por mis preferencias o por mi transición como mujer. El amor a tu prójimo como a ti mismo es una de las más importantes reglas dentro de los 10 mandamientos de Dios.
Okay, so she grew up as a Catholic woman, and she's very believing in God. She grew up in a family that is very Catholic, and they go to church and all that. And where she grew up with the respect and the love to the other person, and for the love to him itself. So basically, she's the message that she wants to give everybody, that she has the faith in God.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
La mayor dificultad que he tenido en esta competencia creo que ha sido el idioma, porque no me he podido comunicar con mis otras compañeras al 100%, pero estoy trabajando en la actualidad en ello. Y creo que la mayor ventaja que me ha ocasionado también esta dificultad es el hecho de que, a pesar de que no hablamos el mismo idioma, o yo no hablo inglés, siento que puedo transmitir mucho a las demás personas a través de mi mirada, mi sonrisa, y siento de que el mejor idioma del alma es lo que nosotros transmitimos, es esa calidad humana que las demás personas pueden ver en mí. Gracias.
The most big disadvantage I find is my English. So I don't know how to speak in English, but I'm working on that. And I think that disadvantage makes me to express more through my eyes, through my smile. And for that, I think it's very important to express how is a person, how is my quality of person. So I try to understand or to keep a conversation with my partner, but I think it's more important that they feel how I try to express. I'm working on my English, and I try to show that I'm a real girl, that that I have some feeling. That is the most important in a person.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
De ser elegida Miss Trans Global, quisiera ser elegida por mis cualidades, por mi inteligencia y porque realmente soy un ser humano que puede inspirar a otras personas, no solo a mi comunidad, sino a todas las personas en el mundo. Porque por más que vean en mí una chica de repente linda, lo más importante es lo que puedo transmitir a las demás personas, ese mensaje que puede inspirar a otras mujeres a levantarse cada día de la cama y a luchar por sus sueños. Esta persona que puede inspirar a muchas más personas en el mundo entero a luchar por sus sueños, porque si una mujer trans lo pudo lograr, cualquier persona también lo puede conseguir.
I were elected as Miss Trans Global. I want to show the world that I'm not just a beautiful girl. I want to be selected because of my value, because of the effort I put in this content. I think that it's more important to transmit the message to all the world that the transgender girls are very valued and important to the society. So that's why I prefer to be elected as my because of my value than just to be a beautiful girl. So we are representing the transgender girl, and for that, I think it's very important to have some values to show the society that we are a person that has dreams and has to work to find our thing.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Yo le quiero decir al mundo de que las mujeres trans también somos mujeres, más allá de nuestra genitalidad, del sexo asignado al nacer. Deben ver en nosotras ese potencial humano que tenemos y que podemos también contribuir a la sociedad, así como también tenemos el derecho de poder luchar por nuestros sueños, ya sea en un concurso de belleza, luchar en las Olimpiadas o en cualquier otro.
Okay, so I want to say the world that we trans girls, we have the law to participate in all the kind of sport because we are women, and for that we have dreams maybe to find on sports, not just in beauty contests, but for being we are working on our dream. For that we need to be considered in these sports, in all areas. And it's not important if we were born as a boy or as a girl. The important is who we are now. So we have the same laws as everything, as everybody here. So for that, we have the law and the right to participate in sports.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media, or tolerance, enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
Como reina de belleza y activista social, creo que es muy importante trabajar de la mano con el gobierno en las políticas del país. Y utilizaría ese poder que me daría la visibilidad de la corona para llegar a los políticos de mi país y llevarles de la mano la ley de identidad. Porque creo que es muy importante el reconocimiento de nuestros derechos como mujer trans en mi país y en el mundo. Y para mí, creo que ambos pueden ir de la mano. Ser reina y utilizar este poder, esta llegada como reina al político. Gracias.
For me, I think that it's very important to work together with the government. If I am a beauty queen, so I can work with the government together in order to find a law, especially the identity law for transgender girls. because being a queen allows is a good advantage for me to have more visibility to the society and work with the with politics or person that work with politics in order to have a law to protect us, especially transgender girls, because it's very important and necessary work together to have laws that protect all the society, especially transgender girls.
How would you respond to those persons who believe that transgender women are not women?
Yo les diría a todas estas personas que tienen que educarse y que en mí van a encontrar una persona que les va a brindar toda esa información necesaria para que ustedes puedan entender que una mujer va más allá de un cuerpo físico. La mujer es esa esencia que llevamos por dentro, la que podemos transmitir, esa feminidad que las demás personas pueden ver en nosotras como mujeres trans. Por ello, yo trabajaría educándolas y explicándoles que lo más importante es esa feminidad.
Well, I can tell you that people that say that we are not a woman, that they need to investigate and have more information about us, because most of the people don't know how to treat a transgender girl because of the ignorance. And of me, they are going to find a person that can explain all the doubts that they have. For that, I think it's very important that they look all our essence of each term.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
Tiene candidatas realmente muy preparadas e inteligentes. Miss Trans Global busca esa mujer trans que puede inspirar a otras, más allá de una cara bonita o un cuerpo hermoso. Miss Trans Global me gusta porque ve en nosotras ese potencial realmente que las mujeres trans tenemos, ese valor como mujeres que podemos transmitir a las demás personas. Es por ello que creo que Miss Trans Global es la plataforma ideal para cualquier mujer trans que quiera inspirar a otras.
If I were a Miss Trans Global, I can say that this contest has the most prepared girl as a contest. Miss Trans Global look at for the better transgender girl that can represent the transgender girl in front of the society. Miss Trans Global is a contest and it's a good platform to show the society that we are girls, that we are people that has some values, that has dreams, girls that are very prepared to have a voice of the transgender. For that, I say that Miss Trans Global is the best contest between the other one, in front of other contests.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
Yo estoy de acuerdo que las mujeres cisgénero participen en los concursos de mujeres, porque esta mujer llevaría ese mensaje poderoso que nosotras queremos transmitir a la sociedad. Y creo que si nosotras como mujeres trans pedimos a gritos el amor, el respeto y la inclusión, también debemos respetar e incluir también en nuestros concursos a mujeres cisgénero, para que ellas puedan llevar ese mensaje que nosotras queremos también al mundo. Gracias.
For me, there isn't any problem that a cisgender girl participate in a transgender contest. Why? Because we are asking for equality of opportunities, and they have the same right as like us. For that, there isn't any problem that a cisgender participate in transgender contest. That is a good opportunity to show that all girls we are equal. We are the same opportunity, and we have inclusion. And for that, for me there isn't any problem that cisgender participate in a contest of transgender.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Las mujeres trans en el pasado, en el presente y en el futuro, creo que siempre vamos a tener algo en común. Y es que somos mujeres realmente guerreras, somos mujeres luchadoras, que hemos venido guerreando en este mundo para poder salir adelante y cumplir nuestros sueños. Y creo que en el futuro nosotras vamos a poder alcanzarlos tal cual lo estamos haciendo en el presente. Y para ello tenemos que seguir trabajando y luchando como lo guerreras que somos. Yeah.
Trans girls in the present, in the past, and in the future, we have one thing in common, that always we are going to fight for our rights and for our love. And I think that in the future, transgender girls are going to continue fighting because we are warriors, because we are stronger in order to have a good quality of life, and in order to have the same rights than the other. So for that, I think that transgender girls in the past, in the present, and in the future, we are fighting all the time. We are fighting with the society, and we are fighting to complete or to find our goals and our dreams.
If you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice? Again, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
Leslie, quiero decirte de que eres una chica muy fuerte y muy inteligente, de que te vas a topar con muchas dificultades en esta vida. La vida no va a ser, pero también te vas a dar cuenta de que eres una mujer valiosa. Y cuando encuentres esa identidad que empiezan a hacer desde ese momento, vas a ver que vas a lograr ser muy feliz, porque eres una mujer capaz de romper cualquier barrera para encontrar sus sueños. Gracias.
I tell her, Leslie, so you're going to be a great woman, and you're going to find a lot of problems and difficulties on all the life, but you are going to have the ability to broken all the walls that you're going to find in your life, that you are going to be a great girl, that you are going to discover your identity. And when you find your identity and you live like identity you feel, you are going to be happy. But you have to be so strong, because the difficulties are going to be on your life, but you are going to be happy then.
Spain, being a Catholic country, sent its first transgender woman representative in the Miss Universe 2018. How would you persuade the entire Peru and the whole Catholic world about this progressive action of Spain with regards to transgender women in a cisgender pageantry.
Quiero decirle a todo mi país de que una mujer trans en Miss Universo llevaría realmente este mensaje poderoso para la humanidad, que es el mensaje del amor. Yo creo que si una mujer trans es visible en Miss Universo, va a poder transmitir este hermoso sentimiento no solo a todas las personas de nuestro país, sino a todo el mundo entero, ya que al incluir una mujer trans, también está incluyendo a parte de toda la humanidad, porque más allá de nuestro cuerpo físico, nosotros somos seres humanos con un gran potencial para que el mundo lo pueda conocer.
I would tell the people, the Peruvian people, that it's a great idea to have a transgender girl in Miss Universe, because this helps us as a Peruvian, as a country, to demonstrate all the world that we have inclusion, that we have equality between transgender girls and cisgender women, and to show the world that is more important, not just the beauty of our body. It's important the message that you give to the society, that transgender girls are women that has dreams, that has goals to find, and for that I tell all my country, all the Peruvians, that it's a great idea to have a transgender girl in a Miss Universe contest, in order to have more visibility and in order to show the world that we are a country of inclusion and equality of gender.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
Thank you for the question. I would like to be selected or picked to win Miss Trans Global 2021 on the virtue of how outspoken I am and how clear my message has been throughout the competition. And I believe that I will take this legacy on to do great things in the next 12 months. And this is why I should be crowned Miss Trans Global 2021.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition? And how will you turn it into an advantage?
Thank you for the question. I feel that my disadvantage in the competition may be that I'm very new to being a trans woman. I only transitioned 4 years ago, but that has pushed me to do more research and have a louder voice and just be the best that I can be. So that has been an advantage as well as a disadvantage for me.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Thank you for the question. I believe that all trans people, as well as LGBTI people should be able to represent their country on an international platform such as the Olympics. There is a lot of medical things that change in the body when people transition, and I think that it's important for people to educate themselves before they put negative things and hate speech on the internet. I believe that all trans people should have the right to compete in any sport.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media, or tolerance, enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
Thank you for your question. I have been lucky enough to have a platform and a voice in the community for many years as a drag performer, and now as a trans woman. I believe that it is important for me to have a voice and be visible on social media and in my community so that it makes it easier for trans people coming up in the world. And if I could just help one person, then my job is done. So I believe that it's very important, if you have the voice and you want to be visible, that we need to change the world for the trans community.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
Thank you for the question. If I was to win Miss Trans Global 2021, I would take the opportunity to spread love and acceptance around the world virtually for trans people living in remote and rural communities globally. And I would like to, help them know that, the world is changing and life is going to get better for the trans community.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
Thank you for the question. I would be in no way threatened, but I think that there are enough pageants around the world globally for cis women, and I believe that pageants for trans women such as Miss Trans Global is a great space for us to be able to raise issues around trans topics and educate people and spread awareness around trans issues. And I think that having a cis woman in the competition would, the message would get a little bit lost, but in no way I would feel threatened.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Thank you for the question. Trans people have been around for many, many years, just like everybody else. And it is only now that trans people have been more accepted into the community. And I believe that trans is valid and trans is important. And it is important for us to be coming up in the world, in employment and, leaders, politics. I think that it's very important in today's society that trans people are seen and heard, because we have amazing stories and it's about time people listened.
Some aspects of the public debate in Australia misrepresent the realities of trans people, particularly trans youth. When trans lives achieve visibility, it is a given that the reaction in the public discourse portray the very existence as a danger to a country's social fabric, national identity, and even children, and that trans youth are being influenced by social media and considered transgenderism as part of a social fad. Worst case, even if Australia has been implementing a number of trans-inclusive laws and policies, some others feel that this political agenda is reductive and offensive. The question is, what would you do to correct this misrepresentation of the trans youth in the media?
Thank you for your question. Our leaders of this country at the moment are very religious and come from religious groups, and I feel like they expect everybody to have the same beliefs as them. And I feel that if our leaders in Australia were to take religion and their faith out of the equation and treated everybody equally and gave everybody equal opportunities, I believe that our country and our nation would be a lot better for the trans community in Australia and the globe as well.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
Saya akan lebih senang ketika saya terpilih sebagai Miss Trans Global atas kemampuan saya untuk berbicara.
I will be happier when I am chosen as Miss Trans Global through my speaking ability.
Karena dari kemampuan saya berbicara, ini menjadi salah satu bentuk apresiasi serta menjadi inspirasi bagi transgender di Indonesia maupun di dunia.
Because through my speaking ability, it will be an aspiration and also a form of respect from the global community. And I can share this to my other trans women fellows from around the world.
Karena dari berbicara kita bisa melangkah jauh lagi dan mungkin saja saya bisa bekerjasama dengan organisasi-organisasi yang bisa membantu saya atas kerja saya sebagai Miss Trans Global.
I believe through my speaking ability, I can reach many organizations out there to reach other trans women fellows, to help them raising their awareness about their rights.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
Kelemahan saya adalah dalam berbahasa Inggris. Meskipun saya memiliki kelemahan dalam bahasa Inggris, namun bagi saya
my disadvantage in the competition is obviously my language.
Ini bukan sebuah kelemahan bagi saya, tetapi ini adalah sebuah kekurangan kecil. Karena meskipun saya tidak pasti berbahasa Inggris, ini bisa menjadi inspirasi kepada teman-teman transgender di Indonesia untuk lebih bersemangat lagi join di Miss Trans Global tahun depan.
Despite I don't speak English fluently, I don't want to make it an obstacle to pursue my dream to be a beauty queen and inspire my fellow trans women in Indonesia to be the next Miss Trans Global Indonesia.
Bahasa bukan penghalang untuk maju.
The language is not our obstacles to go forward.
Terima kasih.
Thank you very much.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Ini adalah satu kebanggaan bagi transgender bisa bergabung dalam sebuah kompetisi Olimpiade.
It is obviously a pride for a trans woman to join an Olympic stage.
Dan saya sangat mengecam terhadap orang-orang yang tidak menghargai usaha transgender ini bisa sejajar dengan masyarakat atau perempuan lainnya.
And I'm very disappointed with the people who disrespect her as an athlete in this competition and calling her not and calling her, okay.
Dia adalah seorang perempuan yang bisa menentukan diri sendiri sebagai perempuan adalah diri sendiri, bukan orang lain.
She's a woman who stands for her own self and her identity cannot be determined by the other people.
If you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
Menurut saya, tidak ada hal yang harus saya sesali dalam hidup saya, karena bagi saya setiap manusia itu terlahir dengan dirinya sendiri, terlahir dengan dirinya sendiri.
I think I don't need to regret anything in my life.
Dan saya percaya bahwa dari saya kecil sampai usia dewasa, saya tidak melakukan kesalahan atas diri saya, karena inilah hidup saya dan ini adalah pilihan saya.
And I believe that I don't make any mistakes in terms of my identity, so I will embrace it and tell my 5-year-old that be anything you want.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media or tolerance enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
Saya lebih memilih saya diakui dari negara sebagai transgender.
I would rather to be recognized by law as trans woman.
Karena dari pengakuan negara tersebut, saya dapat mengidentifikasikan diriku sebagai perempuan.
Because from the country recognition, I can identify myself as a pure woman.
Bagi saya, berpenampilan sesuka itu bisa saja dilakukan oleh siapa, tetapi mendapatkan pengakuan dari negara, tidak semua negara bisa.
To me, anyone can dress like a trans woman or anything, but to be recognized and achieving some recognition from the country, it will be precious to me.
Dan itu adalah salah satu target saya sebagai aktivis transgender. Terima kasih.
And that was my target as a trans woman activist. Thank you very much.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
Jadi sebuah anugerah bagi saya ketika saya terpilih sebagai Miss Trans Global, dan bagi saya Miss Trans Global itu salah satu pageant baru, dan namun bagi saya sangat bermanfaat bagi teman-teman transgender di dunia.
It is an honor for me if I were crowned to be Miss Trans Global. And I think Miss Trans Global, as a new pageant in the industry, is a very good platform for our fellow trans women out there.
Ya, meskipun sebuah ajang baru, tetapi kinerja dari pemenang ratu sebelumnya bisa menjadi inspirasi bagi transgender, dan hal tersebut membuat saya lebih bersemangat untuk mengikuti kompetisi ini.
Despite the Miss Trans Global is a new pageant, it is a very effective platform for us to inspire other trans women out there, and it makes me really excited to be joining the competition.
Karena kompetisi ini mengedepankan kampanye, dan saya sangat menyukainya. Terima kasih.
Because this competition uplifting the campaign of transgender rights. Thank you very much.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
Saya tidak merasa terancam dengan kehadiran perempuan tersebut, karena bagi saya dengan dirinya sudah setara sebagai perempuan.
I'm not feeling threatened at all by that woman to join, because I feel that we are the same, we are equals.
Dan mungkin saja melalui podcast kami, kita bisa menjadi saudara. Antara saya yang menang atau tidak, tentunya dari podcast tersebut, kita bisa menjadi saling menguatkan. Terima kasih.
And it's a big possibility for us to be new sisters when they join this kind of new competition for her. Thank you very much.
Hello, Mistress Global Indonesia. This is my question for you. Do you believe language is a barrier in winning Mistress Global crown? If yes, tell me your reason. If no, tell me your reason.
Jika saya terpilih sebagai Mistress Global, bagi saya bahasa itu sangat penting untuk berbicara pada dunia. Tetapi saya tidak harus fasih dalam bahasa Inggris.
If I were to be Miss Trans Global 2021, I don't think that English is highest priority to be a beauty queen.
Ya,
Lanjut.
melalui penerjemah saya bisa menyampaikan kepada dunia apa yang ingin saya kerjakan sebagai Mistress Global.
Despite I don't think that English is the super priority to be a beauty queen, but I need translator to convey my message as a beauty queen.
Ethnically and culturally, Indonesia has 5 genders. If you win Miss Trans Global, what steps would you take to persuade the entire Indonesia to recognize into a law all the gender spectrum that it has?
Saya akan mempromosikan 5 gender ini tidak hanya melalui sosial media.
I will promote these 5 gender issues not only on my social media.
Saya akan memperkenalkan ke kepala daerah.
I will also promote the 5 genders to the government, local government.
Dan memperlihatkan histori dari seorang bisu dan 5 gender ini.
And showcasing the history of bisus and specifically these 5 genders.
Karena sebelum agama Islam masuk di Indonesia, 5 gender diakui di Sulawesi Selatan dan bisu sebagai perantara manusia dengan dewa.
Because in pre-Islamic era, bisu themselves are recognized as the bridge for the human beings to the God in the sky.
Dari budaya itu, kita bisa masuk untuk meyakinkan kepada masyarakat bahwa keberagaman gender itu sudah ada dari dulu.
And through that old culture, we can convince the society or the general people that the 5 genders is already exist from the very beginning in our culture.
Terima kasih.
Thank you very much.
Expound this phrase according to your experience. Trans women, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Based on my experience, yesterday, I'm an ambitious and proud transgender. Today, I'm a very proud transgender parent to my 11 years old biological daughter. And tomorrow, hopefully, I will be a proud trans grandparent to all my beautiful and lovely granddaughters.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
As a proud transgender, I believe that I don't need to be threatened to any cisgender joining a transgender pageant, because I know and I believe that I am equally beautiful and I'm equally capable of doing such a lot of things that any cisgender can do. However, as a cisgender joining I don't believe that cisgender should join transgender pageant, because they already have those major pageants who doesn't even include us transgenders. So I don't see any point of them joining any transgender pageant.
My question for you is, how would you respond to those people who believe that transgender women are not women?
How will I respond to those people who say that transgender are not women? Well, a proud transgender parent is standing in front of them, who is raising my biological child and doing my best to raise my child into becoming a better person. And I believe that gender will never be an issue into becoming a good parent. So just by that, just by showing them that I am a good parent, then I can also raise my daughter into having a successful life. Just simply means that I am a woman and I can also be a good mother to my daughter.
If you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
If I can go back time and advise my 5-year-old self, I would tell her that never doubt yourself. Be proud of who you are, because in the future, you're gonna succeed and you're gonna have a beautiful life with your family who supports you and love you all through, all the way.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
With respect to other pageants, like, you know what my colleagues always ask me here in Japan, what's the difference between Miss Trans Global and other pageants? Well, for me, the difference between the other pageants and Miss Trans Global is Miss Trans Global is more diverse. They accept different kind of transgender, different kind of ethnicity, different kind of backgrounds, and Miss Trans Global focus more on all the transgender advocacies, and they focus more on helping other transgender in our community.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media or tolerance enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
For me, I think it's about time for us to be accepted, not just to be tolerated. Because in our society nowadays, they always say, "Oh, we already accept you for who you are." But the truth is, they're just tolerating us. It's about time for people to see us as their equal. It's about time for them to accept that we also exist. Because at the end of the day, we breathe the same air, we eat the same food, and we walk the same earth.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Well, since the Olympic was held here in Japan, a lot of people came to me. They always ask me about my opinion on transgender joining the Olympic. And what I told them was, just educate yourself. You know, being a transgender is not just, dressing up. There's a lot of changes that will happen into our body. There's a lot of changes that will happen to us emotionally when you start transitioning. That's why I always educate them. I always tell them that I was never the same person that I was before I transitioned.
Miss Trans Global Japan, my question for you is, as a mother with an inspiring story that inspires me also, do you believe that Miss Trans Global organization is ready to crown a queen who is a mother, despite all the challenging duties of a beauty queen? And do you believe you'll be able to fulfill your duty as Miss Trans Global 2021 and also take care of your family?
Well, one of the reasons why I joined Miss Trans Global is because I wanted to win. And I wanted to raise awareness about transgender parenting, which is, it's about time for transgender parents to be seen and to be heard. And with the problem about my duties, with all the duties that I might have given the chance to win Miss Trans Global, I don't think that me being a parent, having a child, and having a family would be a hindrance. Because just by joining the pageant, just by the preparation I did with the pageant, actually my daughter and my husband helped me to make all the videos, and I actually raised my daughter about all the awareness and the things that we transgenders are fighting for.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
While joining this pageant, I know that every person is different, that everyone has their own uniqueness. However, not to brag or not to be boastful about myself, I never see any disadvantage from other contestants. The only problem that I struggle with is through my own. You know, I sometimes doubt myself, and through those doubts, with the help of my family, with the help of my friends, and with the help of people who always help me to build my confidence, I use those doubts to create a great platform and to use it to my advantage.
If your transgender child who transitioned at an early age decided to go stealth upon reaching a legal age, aside from the growing tensions between visibility and violence, what would be a reason to respect her decision?
If I have a child who became a transgender and decided to be stealth, I would definitely respect his or her decision, just like how my parents respected me in the first day that they knew that I wanted to transition myself. However, before I do that, I would still educate my child on what we are fighting for. I will still educate my child into all the beauty that being a transgender woman can have in her life.
My question for you is, how would you respond to those people who believe that transgender women are not women? How would you respond to those persons who believe that transgender women are not women?
Thank you for the questions. How we can educate public if they see that trans woman is not a woman? First of all, let's ask ourselves, what is the definitions of man and woman? We can see that there are lots of different interpretations from the public and experts. However, the most importantly, we should spread awareness about this. Gender is not defined by our biological sex. It is a self-determination of each individual, and it defined by our brain and soul. Gender is diverse, and acceptance is the key to one and another. Thank you.
My question for you is, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice? Again, if you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
I live in a world where people don't recognize my gender and don't respect my decisions and identity. People keep telling us that we are not existent, we are pretend to be someone else. I proudly stand here today to share about whatever is my gender. It will not reflect to my moral values and bring negative impact to the others. I want young girl born like me to live a life without any fear of being discriminated, insulted, or fear of hate crimes victim. All of us should live a life with respect and dignity. Thank you.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
If I have been given opportunity to be Miss Trans Global, I want to be recognized based on my effort and advocacy, because it is most important rather than my physical outlook. Beauty fades away, but kindness stays forever. I want to be a representation of the people who feel left behind, who feel not good enough, and who feel can achieve their dream because they don't fit to the beauty standard. To the people who feel isolated, here I am today to prove it wrong. Thank you.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
My weaknesses that I hold for quite long is not too confident enough to be the person that I want to. I take it as a motivation and in a positive way. My view is beauty should in line with great attitude and solid commitment. Beauty begins when you decide to be you and loving yourself. 15 years ago, I facing a tragedy, hit by a car and undergo a major operations. Starting off that, it is a lesson learned for me to be proud of myself and put determination and effort in everything what I do. Thank you.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
This is one of the issues that community facing, where there is a resistance for trans women to participate in the female sport category. We should redefine the term of gender and understand SOGI, which is a social orientation and gender identity, and from there we can understand the diversity of humans. And when it comes to the sport, it's not about the gender and hormone that contain in our body. It requires a skill, practice, determinations, and mental conditions during a sport activities. Thank you.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media, or tolerance, enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
Between visibility and tolerance in social media and gender recognition, I strongly will choose a gender recognition is a crucial need, because it will help a minority group to live a life in daily basis, and no one should be left behind and unrecognized in this world because of their existence. As that now, 25 countries all around the world have implemented gender recognition bill, and it keeps progressing. I urge all countries all around the world to implement it now. Thank you.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
If I have been given an opportunity to be Miss Trans Global, the important message is to spread that this pageant is not about the outer beauty, but it's to spread the voices and as a medium of advocacy. I will stand with my tagline, break the silence, to spread the voice that have been silent for the trans community. Our issues need to be heard and our issues matters. Thank you.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
First of all, I will not be threatened if cisgender women in the same pageant, because this is a start of inclusivity and voicing our issues for better understanding one to another. Cisgender women have this platform for all the decades, but it is a time for trans women to use this platform to voicing our issues and search for the representation and role model for trans community in positive interpretations, and be a great platform for us to be heard and seen and bring the impact. Thank you.
Do you think that religious fanaticism in Malaysia hinders the progressive thinking of the politicians, which also hinders trans rights to be recognized in the society. Why and why not?
Religious organizations have a strong influence in our government today. These particular parties start to enforce task force to criminalize the trans community. We should start to against all this agenda, and I personally stand that personal belief shouldn't be included in administration of multiracial country like Malaysia that can harm the community that fits into their personal belief and create a better society as a whole. Thank you.
If you were to become Miss Trans Global, would you rather be selected by virtue of your looks or by virtue of how outspoken and eloquent you are? Choose only one, and why?
I believe that true beauty lies beyond what we see with our eyes. And that is not just eloquence per se, but our capability to raise our advocacy and to be better representatives for our community. Most pageants, I believe, were heavily influenced by our patriarchal and colonial concepts to gender and to beauty. And to be a Miss Trans Global is to break beyond these systems of oppression and to raise a beauty that goes beyond the physical, that goes beyond the way we speak or the way we carry ourselves, but how genuine we are in raising our advocacies and our people.
What do you think is your disadvantage against the other queens in this competition, and how will you turn it into an advantage?
Let me tell you a fun fact about myself joining this competition. I am actually the youngest candidate joining this competition. And some people might see this as a disadvantage to me, and even myself, I thought this would be a disadvantage. But I think this can be an advantage in a sense that I was able to break beyond the barriers there is to my age, to what people think of my capabilities are. And I think my capability to be persistent, to be resilient, and to break beyond this barrier, even at this early age, is an advantage and shows so much of my work ethic that I can carry along as an aspect as your Miss Trans Global 2021. Thank you.
My question for you is, how would you respond to those people who believe that transgender women are not women?
I think it boils down to education. I would tell them the struggles that we face, and I want them to realize that we wouldn't persist in a society where we would struggle, where we are constantly being persecuted just to live a lie. We persist because this is our truth. As a young queen myself, I believe that I exist today, and I have been assertive of my identity at a very young age. And that is the same narrative to those who came before me. We have existed long ago, we exist now, and we will exist in the future. We are not going anywhere. And I think that speaks so much of how we are rightfully placed in this society.
In the recently concluded Olympics, a woman had been assigned as a referee in the men's super heavyweight category in boxing. Also, the Olympic Committee has allowed the participation of Laurel Hubbard in the women's weightlifting category. However, there is a resistance to trans women competing in women's sports because of the issues that generally focuses on physiological attributes such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength. How would you convert the regressive stance in the public discourse about the participation of transgender athletes in general?
Just like pageantry, Olympics is also heavily influenced by our patriarchal concepts to gender, the ones that contains women to certain levels of estrogen or hormones. And I want people to realize that these policies are not just transphobic, but are also misogynistic, because it doesn't just affect trans women and trans people, but cis people in general. there are cis women who aren't able to join Olympics because their estrogens are naturally lower, or their hormones or male hormones are naturally higher. And I believe that we can have whatever biological aspect there is in our hormones and still be valid of our identities. Thank you.
If you're given an opportunity to give an advice to your 5-year-old self, what would be your advice?
When I was 5 years old, I was constantly being bullied and constantly being made to feel like I don't belong in the society or there's something wrong with me. And so I want to tell my 5-year-old self that it will be okay if you don't know much about yourself yet. You will figure it out soon, and there is nothing wrong with you. You exist because you matter, and soon enough, through your persistence, you will be inspiring other 5-year-old kids. You will also be an ate to them, a sister to them, a bigger sister to them, who will fight for their rights as well. Thank you.
Being a voice and having the presence seems to be what all the queens want to promote during their reigns. Is visibility in the society and social media, or tolerance, enough when there is no law for us that legally recognize us as equals with a gender spectrum that is dictated by the society?
Visibility is one thing that a queen can greatly present and help with the community. But that certainly is not enough. That is not certainly that one thing that can raise us all together. And I'd like to view queenship as leadership. It means finding the power that there is in us, and not just being an empowering icon to our community, but to have people realize the power that there is already in them, and to have them unify towards that one goal that we have in having equal rights as any other in the society. And that means working hand in hand for us. Thank you.
If you win Miss Trans Global, how would you differentiate Miss Trans Global with respect to the other trans pageant?
To be honest, when I look at trans pageants, I don't see myself in there. I am not someone who has fully transitioned. And I think that is one thing that I can bring as a Miss Trans Global, to be a representation to trans people who feel like they don't fit in the standards of beauty and womanhood that the patriarchal society has set us to be in. I want them to realize that they are woman enough, even though they are young, even though they have different body types, even though they have different beliefs. And I think that is powerful.
Would you be in any way threatened by a cisgender woman joining a trans pageant, even if she is an ally? Why and why not?
I will not entirely be threatened, because I believe that in whatever spaces there is in our society, both trans and cis can come together. But we have to be reminded that trans people have less opportunities than cis people. And that is why, amidst inclusive platforms, we still rally to have specific platforms for us, because we don't have enough representation on a scope that is comparable to cis people. And I believe that a cis ally would understand that as well. Thank you.
Miss Trans Global Philippines, this is my question for you. As the youngest contestant competing with all these girls who are much more mature and have had more life experiences than you, what is that one factor or one thing that makes you special enough to be crowned Miss Trans Global 2021?
As a trans youth leader who have been exposed to the intersectionality of our struggles, and also as someone coming from the different margins of our society, I have learned to break beyond my barriers to age, to gender, to ethnicity, and even to my borders and sectors that I am in the society. I was able to realize that power is not just within oneself, but in our collective efforts. When we go hand in hand and see the beauty that there is in all of us. And I think going beyond myself, that is a great aspect that I can bring along as a Miss Trans Global. It is not about me competing against one queen or another, but us coming together, fighting a larger oppressive system. Thank you.
In your country, the LGBT community, especially the trans community, is divided in terms of the support between the administration and the non-administration. Do you think this divisiveness helps in terms of the trans advocacy and the passing of the SOGI bill when the whole community is not united? What message would you convey to both factions?
I want them to realize that whatever liberation they get from their factors, as long as it is not resonating with other members of our community, it is not genuine liberation. We tend to gravitate to different factors because we want to be included. And let us not be that voice of exclusion to our co-members of the community. Let us always find a common ground for our advocacies to persist. And that starts with communication. Thank you.
And that concludes our Miss Trans Global 2021 indoor interview. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share them with us by leaving your comments below. However, keep your comments kind and constructive because Miss Trans Global will always be a safe and inclusive space. Well, personally, I am very ecstatic to be seeing empowered, intelligent, and articulate finalists this year. Thus, I cannot wait for the grand finals and finally welcome our newest queens. Watch out for the rest of their royal activities, images, and videos by tuning in and following our socials. Facebook.com/MissTransGlobal, Instagram.com/MissTransGlobal, Twitter.com/MissTransGlobal, YouTube.com/MissTransGlobal, and MissTransGlobal.com. Thank you very much, Miss Trans Global community. This has been Mala Habijan, your Miss Trans Global 2021. Mabuhay at paalam!